at Otakon 2026, we got to talk to Michael Christopher Koji Fox and Toshio Murouchi, also known as Foxclon, in this issue of the Carbuncle Chronicle. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Carbuncle Chronicle, your podcast for everything awesome in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm Basil, and I went to Otakon.
I'm Anna, and I also went to Otakon.
Yeah, I know we mentioned in the previous episode, I got to design their badges, and that was super cool. We also got to go to the con, which was all super cool, and what I didn't mention was there was this chance, and it became real, we got to talk to some cool people.
It's pretty much the highlight, like they're the, not end goal of this podcast, but a pretty big goal for this podcast.
Yeah, I always wanted to talk to some of the developers. I would love to talk to all the developers, like, don't get me wrong. But the fact that we got to talk to Michael Koji Fox and Toshio Murouchi, it was a dream come true.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've been trying to meet Koji at FanFest for 10 years now. Like, he is the one that has always gotten away. We've just never been lucky enough. Like, we've gotten pictures with Yoshi P and Soken and Foxclon even, but he's the one that we've never been able to catch. So that was, and he's just as fun to talk to as he is to watch on stage.
And that's not putting any short shrift on Foxclon. He was also
no.
to.
I was really, we got to meet him and get pictures with him, like, in the 2018 FanFest, and we saw him at the NA FanFest this time. But even getting to talk, like, and he's one of those, I'm like, I was never sure, getting to talk to him, just because, he's a native Japanese speaker, so I wasn't entirely, I know he knows English, but I'm always a little nervous sometimes. I mean, I'm nervous in general around anybody that's important, but, like, I just wasn't sure how that would go, but he was fun. I so much enjoyed getting to talk to him as well. And poor guy, he didn't get to go home after Otakon. He had to go to LA.
Yeah, it was. But before we get started, again, ginormous thank yous to both Square Enix, the Final Fantasy XIV team, and Otakon making this happen. Hello, you're listening to the Carbuncle Chronicle. We are here at Otakon 2026, and we're two very, very special guests. Would y'all please introduce yourselves?
My name is Michael Christopher Koji Fox, and I am the Localization Supervisor on FF14 and Localization Director on FF16, and have been with Square Enix since 2003, since the day they became Square Enix. So that's like 23 years.
My name is Toshio Murouchi, also known as Foxclon, the global community producer for Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm doing the head of customer service for entire Square Enix. I've been here in Square Enix since 2001, so it's actually
Senpai.
25th year. Super Jubilee year.
Wow.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
y'all.
Thank you all so much again for doing this.
So something that we do as part of our podcast is we start spoilers with a spoiler food. I pick a specific food in the game, like to that's thematically appropriate. So for Evercold episodes, we've been finding stuff that's warm and hearty. So what would be your favorite food that you've had a chance to localize in 14?
Wow. Oh no! So there's been so many things that I've enjoyed localizing in 14, but I don't know what it would be. The thing is, though, so we have the Evercold ice, like the shaved ice in the game, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, is this some kind of like connection?" Were they foreshadowing back then, and now it's come back in 8 point? Actually, there was no foreshadowing there. I was just literally looking for a cool compound fantasy sounding word for this new item that came out, and so I used Evercold because it would never, it's just like shaved ice, but it never melts because it's magically infused
Yes.
with ice ether, and so it's Evercold. And then when we started talking about the new expansion title, and Yoshida-san, he comes to me and it's like, okay, can you give us some, he came to me in the localization team, like, can you give us some ideas? This is kind of the themes that we want to go with. And so he always asks us for ideas about that. And then he had his idea as well. It's like, absolute zero that he wanted to go with. And even we checked with legal, and the legal's like, no, you can't use absolute zero. And so, but he wanted that kind of theme that you have this, it's very, again, it's the fourth.
Yeah.
So you have this frozen world, but also kind of implying that, that there is that it's a static world, that it's cold, and that you're there to kind of break that ice, and he wanted to get that across. And yeah, we came up with a ton of things, a ton of different, cold themed things. And ultimately, Yoshida-san, and I threw on Evercold there because again, we just throwing lots of ideas, and ultimately it's Yoshida-san that like looks at all of them, and what hits him hardest is the one that he ends up choosing. And he ended up choosing Evercold. And again, at that time, I had completely forgotten about the shaved ice. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good. Let's go with Evercold. And then, then this Otakon thing came up, and we're like, oh, we're going to do this workshop, and we have the Evercold ice. I'm like, what? oh no. It was just like, that's right. I did call it Evercold. Now people are going to be thinking there's some weird connection. Sorry, there's no connection. Or is there?
Follow-up question.
Sure.
Favorite fish?
Oh, the favorite fish. I have a lot of favorite fish, but it's got to be the vegetarian.
I knew you were going to say that
because
one.
we got to create that with
I think a friend of ours actually, I think she submitted the name vegetarian.
Or it was one of the
Yeah.
elements. One of the elements. She was at that fan fest that year, and she called something out. And one of them, I forget, it was the Lalafell part.
Yeah.
or-
See, we play Lalafell, so we kind of avoid that fish.
But no, I mean, getting a chance to work with the community. I mean, I think that was the first time that we'd ever done something like that. And I really wanted to do that because, again, it's such being a part of the collaborative process within the development team. I wanted to, give the players a chance to be also collaborative with us as well. And I thought, can I do this? And again, like the dev team was like, what are you going to try to do? That sounds like you shouldn't do that. It's going to be chaotic. You're going to ask fans for something. You're not going to get it. It's going to be, not safe for work. It's going to be terrible. And I'm like, no, we got to trust the fans. They're cool. And we did it. And it was absolutely cool. And it was fun. And we came up with something amazing. It went way over our UI size. And I had to talk to a dev. Is there any way we can do it? The Japanese team was like, no way we're going to fit all this in. But it was such an amazing experience. And that's kind of why I wanted to follow up with my panel this time with rewriting the lyrics for that third, because I loved just getting the ideas, because everybody's got great ideas.
Oh, and I loved how when you actually had it during the concert and you were using the lyrics, that was I was like, okay.
Oh my God, the story behind that too is crazy. Everybody was like, we actually re-recorded backing vocals in the hour after that. We went outside, because again, we had different vocals. And so there's actually backing vocals there when we're singing. So we needed the backing vocal to match. So literally after it finished, Soken and the other sound guy, I think Imamura-san was there. At the venue, we got, we had mics, and we were recording the backing vocals. They remixed them into the backing track that we play with the song in time for the concert, which was literally 3 hours away. It's like, everybody's like, go, 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 go. And the text on the screen as well, that had to be recompiled in Japan and sent, it's a gig file sent in Japan, because they couldn't add the text into the file. It was already So they had to get someone in Japan at 2 a.m. to add that text in there for those 2 lines and then resend the file. It was way more complicated than I thought. I ended up apologizing to so many people, like, arigatou gozaimashita, arigatou gozaimashita.
Well, it was great. We absolutely loved it. It was, we picked it out immediately and we're just cheering. It was great. And my bachelor's is in music engineering, and so I know how hard that was. So.
Actually, lots of people are running around and saying, hey, Koji, or something like that.
I'm very sorry. Everyone that was involved, thank you so much for making it happen, because the coolest thing, everyone was singing. And I was up there on stage, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. Is it okay to say holy shit?
Oh, very much.
This is for Toshio again. We don't want.
We want to make sure you both ask both of you questions.
I'm sure that the community interactions, they've changed broadly ever since Final Fantasy XI, now into 14. But like on a more general scale, how has community management like changed from like 2000 till now?
Oh wow. The biggest thing is SNS, social media.
Mm.
So because now people can speak more directly to the public, and then we as a developer can see them directly. So I mean, back in 2000s, I mean early 2000 years, I mean the people can only get the game information through the publication or something like that, and we only hear the feedback from media or something like that. So I mean on the online world, I mean there is official forums for most of the titles, so that's the only way. But now they have social media, so that's the biggest change. So we can, I mean, in good way, we can have a direct feedback more frequently. But I mean, we need to be, at the same time, we need to be very careful, because how big that opinion is more, I mean, important to find out. Because tiny, it's not a big thing, but I mean, if someone is more saying that strongly, that we can see it as if it could be a huge issue. So we have to be careful if this is it true or not, or how big it is or not.
Does
That's
everyone
yeah.
think that, or is it just this
Yeah.
one person? Yeah.
that's
Just someone
that-
that's really loud.
yeah, that's a big change, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know that live letters have been now very well known for ways for Square Enix and y'all to communicate directly to the players. And it really does give it a human touch that, we don't really see for things like generic press releases or what have you do. Has there also been any other unforeseen benefits that you found thanks to this live letter format?
Oh wow, good. I mean, live letter format was very new when we started,
Mhm.
and then actually now, I mean, lots of people are doing the same setup.
Mhm.
I mean, the bringing the developer and then us direct communication between fans or players, and then yeah. But I mean, now people understand. I mean, how FF14's live letter is special, because I mean, I have a bit hesitation to say this, but I mean, our producer director Naoki Yoshida is kind of very special.
Mhm.
I mean, and he can answer everything
Yeah.
by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows
He
all
knows
about
everything,
programming.
yeah.
He knows about art. He knows about writing. He knows about localization. So he can answer every question truthfully
Yeah.
and confidently, and not just be, giving you BS.
And then he can take everything by himself, and he can make it as he tells. So that's why live letter works. And then for some games doing the same setup as live letter, but I mean, you need tens of developers to answer your questions, or I mean, sometimes I can't have an answer, so bring back to the dev team, and then I mean, we will say it later or something like that. So yeah, I feel see, if FF14's live letter is good, is I mean, side effect. I mean,
Yeah.
So, coming back to you, Koji. What localization, let's say, stunt, are you potentially proud of in Final Fantasy XIV? Like, I know, like Anna mentioned, there was during the year of the rooster, there was,
That was our very first Code panel.
I mean, there's lots of fun stuff to do. There's lots of ways that the 14 team kind of, especially with those smaller things, kind of lets us have a lot of fun. They do, not just for localization, but for all the teams. There are opportunities to kind of, for each department to spread their wings. Like, again, we have the set pieces, we have the set things that we need to do, and we're very serious about all of those. But then there'll always be content where there's like, the art team, do whatever you want. Localization team, do whatever you want. I mean, Hildebrand is basically one of those things where like the scenario team was like, we have all this lore and we're bound by this lore and the story, but we want to do something crazy that doesn't really fit in the lore and is different than it. So the whole Hildebrand storyline was to allow the scenario writers to basically just go crazy and not have to worry about, things that bind them. And so it's for localization. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's a really hard question. But I think probably the crazy. It's just having so much fun on like achievements and quest names and things
Oh.
like that. I just go crazy on those, and the whole team goes crazy on those.
Oh.
And we've been given the okay from the dev team on I told them early on that this is kind of what I want to do, and the whole thinking behind it is that it's not in world, is that things that are in world need to match your lore, but the meta things, the things that like quest titles are not for your PC, they're for you here in Earth, and so those should just be fun and crazy. And, starting to do those. And in the beginning, like, again, the English was doing them, the Japanese really wasn't doing them. But then they were getting very popular in English. And then the Japanese players kind of pick up on that. And they're like, oh my God, fate titles are so different. What does this mean? And then they're learning the references that maybe weren't popular in Japan or in Japanese because it's like an American TV reference. And then they're learning these and they're getting excited about them. And then, of course, the writers are like, hey. And then all of a sudden, the Japanese team starts adding in these very Japanese pop culture references, like Japanese TV shows or Japanese manga and anime that maybe aren't going to be well understood in the West, but like, they're going to be understood in Japan. And so, and then letting us have each team have the, the freedom to kind of do everything you want, because those are things that don't need to be one-to-one translations because they're for each individual group and they don't really hinge upon the story, so they should be fun. And being a part of kind of changing the culture there, like, again, it was just kind of like me going off and doing it and people are like, Koji? But this is kind of a good idea, so we'll do it too.
Those are definitely a topic of conversation. Every expansion, we enjoy getting to go to the fates and getting the achievements and seeing what you've come up with.
And the thing is, it's and again, it's not like I started doing that, but right now my team has completely bought into that, and they have so many great ideas. And then I'll always look at and then people come to me at FanFest and like, oh, Koji, this is the greatest one. I'm like, I love to take credit for that. That's not me, but like the heart and soul of it is just like, yeah, this is really cool. I have an amazing team that bought into that, and they just kind of keep doing, and they take it up the next level. I mean, they always try to top themselves, and the minorest of memes is going to be in there.
Okay, so a popular stream that the community team has done has been Mr. Foxclon's Neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing these housing tours, when you're visiting player house, what are you looking for in a house? Are there any tips for an aspiring housing decorator?
Yes, I mean, that is the part of it. But I mean, the reason why we started that broadcast is, I mean, Final Fantasy XIV is a realm, a world you're living. So, I mean, when we do the streams, we often feature the battle side of battle content. I mean, new bosses, new trials. But I mean, at the same time, some people are spending hours, I mean, hundreds, thousands of hours into the specific contents like housing and fishing or the crafting gathering. So we want to highlight that type of activities because that is an important part of the FF14. So that's the reason to start with. And then when we started, I mean, I'm really impressed by how the imagination of the housing players are. I mean, this is furniture, but I can't. I mean, the combination of the furniture
to create something new. Yeah.
I mean, every time I see the new players' housing, I mean, what was this furniture? Did we implement that? That's a new finding. There are lots of new findings, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
So many people want to get a game localization. They're big fans of gaming, but it's clear from your work that you pull from all sorts of things, and you're very well read. What some specific books or fields of study do you recommend for someone doing this kind of localizations that y'all do at Square Enix?
Wow. Like you said, it's a lot of, I pull from a lot of things, and it's not just one thing. I can't just say, oh, read this series and you'll be ready for localization. You have to read a lot. And I try to read, I'll read probably a book a week, just for fun. I read a lot of, again, it's fantasy. I work on fantasy games. And so, yes, I read a lot of fantasy just because learning how other people like name fantasy things and those kind of conventions. Also, those fantasy writers have read other books as well that maybe I haven't read, and writers pick up on things and they like them, they'll use them themselves and make them their own. It's all about, I'm not going to say stealing, but like borrowing these things because you have great writers going way back in history, and all of them have developed these things that make them amazing writers. And people read that and then they'll take the bits that they like and they add them to their bits that they came up with. And it's just this constant, evolution of writing. And so the more you read, the more of these things you can pick up and make your own yourself. And so the more you read, the better. And you're going to find cool turns of, like, I have my book, when I'm reading, I have a bookmark. And every time I come up to a word, I'll just stop and I'll write on the bookmark all of the cool words that I came up with, or the cool turns of phrase I come up with. And then I'll take that bookmark at the end, I'll take it and then I'll type everything into an Excel file. And then I'll have that on my desktop that when I'm writing, I'll bring it up. And, it's just, again, the more you read, the better writer you're going to become. I cannot stress that enough, that if you want to be a good writer, just read a lot. If you want some actual books that I really recommend, when it comes to just coming up, everyone talks about Final Fantasy XIV, always has like, oh, I learned a new word in this expansion. The places where I picked up the most really cool vocabulary was Gene Wolfe, the Earth and the New Sun series. So like Shadow of the Torturer and those type, with this character Severian and his sword Terminus Est, which is one of the swords. Again, I've taken that from there. But he used so much crazy language that they actually made a dictionary of the crazy language that he used in the books, because he was pulling from, this is like pre-internet time, so he's pulling from all of these different sources, and he uses so many wonderful words. The word Ascian is taken from there. It was because it just means a person without a shadow, and the Ascians have shadows. But it's basically just a person who lives on the equator where the sun is always above, and so they don't have a shadow. But like seeing this word Ascian, I'm like thinking, it's a fucking cool. Someone evil. Just like, and so bringing that in and using those for the terms, and that having that being accepted by the dev team too, and becoming an actual term. So that series I definitely recommend. Another one from more recently that I use as inspiration for Final Fantasy XVI and a lot of the help text is the Cities of Weft series, written by Alex Phoebe. The first book is called Mordu. It's an amazing book, and it's just like the way that it's fantasy, but the way it's written and the concepts and the world building, the whole concept is that like God has died and the corpse of God is like beneath this city, and the city is like feeding off of the essence of the God that has died. And so weird shit is going on, and just like this, this young boy that has this journey in this city, and it's just like, I'd never read anything like it. It inspired me a lot. And, using that in FF16 as well. And then getting to meet the author, because it turns out the author is a huge FF fan, and like was reading some article I had mentioned. Is like, that's my book. And like, he goes to his agent, get me away to talk to Koji. And then, we talk, and then I got to actually have him contribute to the lore book as well. And so it was like a cool connection. But those two series are amazing, and so I recommend. But literally, I mean, if it's fantasy, it doesn't matter what you read, as long as you're reading, and there's stuff there for you. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. How do y'all take your coffee?
I have with a lot of chocolate. I
Yes.
love
Yes.
mochas.
I love black Americano with no sugar, no milk.
Ooh,
Yeah.
hardcore.
That's mine,
That's
actually.
him.
Yeah. Thank y'all so
Thank
much.
Yeah,
We
thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you very much.
And we're back. Oh my God, that was wow. Oh man. It was really, really great talking to them.
Yep.
And something I had forgotten about right before the interview started, we were talking with the Square Enix rep, who was also helping me with the badges. And they mentioned, and I'd forgotten about this joke, that the reason, so all the badges, all the attendee badges, everything but the staff badges, every badge was a different 14 job. And guests were Vipers. I forgot that was because Viper was the closest thing we had to VIP. And
Yep.
that really, really tickled Koji.
He said he that was a pun he approved of.
So that's when we actually, now we've topped out. Now this podcast is irrelevant. Now we finally have done it. But it's not even the podcast. It was me designing a badge. So I guess I've just peaked as a person. And man, I am sorry if I sounded nervous talking to them, because normally I can talk to whomever, but man, they're legends. Daggum.
Really didn't help that we had technical difficulties to begin with.
Yeah, you'll notice it doesn't sound as nice as it could have. We got microphones to do it, so it sound really nice, but then they only chose during the interview to act up. But that was not that was our interview. And once again, thank you to Square Enix, Final Fantasy XIV team, and Otakon for making that interview happen. But there were also some panels, and we got to get to a couple of them. And I haven't seen a lot of folks talking about them. And that's a real shame because they were really fun. They were really good.
I have seen a couple of posts on Koji's panel. And then I've seen one on the localization panel. So I have seen a couple of posts, but not a whole lot.
So on Friday at 9:30 p.m., and if you're thinking, man, a 9:30 p.m. panel on Friday night, was anyone going to show up in one of the main events rooms? The answer was yes. That thing was pretty dang packed.
Yep.
And sure, on the schedule, it was Adventures in Localization, Koji Fox Journey across Final Fantasy XI, 14, and 16. And that was true.
But the real title of the panel.
Yeah, just to remind everyone, Koji is one of us. And when I say one of us, I also mean panelists, because the actual title was Adventures in Localization, or How I Became Ben Starr's Best Friend Forever. This is a panel that could have been at FanFest.
Oh, yeah, but it was appropriately titled because I actually met someone in line who was there solely for 16. They didn't play 14. They were absolutely only there for 16. I was like, all right.
Okay, that's okay.
That's when you were playing Line Monitor.
Oh, yeah. I did have to play line monitors a little bit because at the time, the Square Enix concert was going on, which was also completely packed, but there was a bunch of us waiting in line to go for a localization panel. And the line it was more of a clump than a line. And so I did what I could to smooth people over because their plan was, and it was still the case, I believe, they were not letting people out or kicking people out. They weren't like room clearing and then bringing everyone in fresh. If people were there for the concert and the localization panel, they could stay. But if everyone stayed, then there'd be no room. And I just want to make sure everyone knew that. So I was talking to lots of folks, met a lot of really cool people. If you happen to be in that line, hi, you were great. But a lot of people cleared out. Everyone got in. Great time. And again, great panel. Koji panels with the best of them. It was really neat hearing his initial stories. So he started the panel by introducing himself and, going, man, I really don't know what my job is anymore in Final Fantasy XIV, because he is technically still the localization head, kind of, sort of, but now he has such a well-oiled, well-running team that back when he was off doing 16 and other things, they were still doing the job of getting 14 localized. So there's that. But then he went into this neat little story about how his name is Michael Christopher Koji Fox. And the Koji part is Japanese. His father was a pilot and stayed in Japan for 2 years before Koji was born. And that was really impactful for his father. And so he wanted to give some of that impactfulness to Koji by giving him that name. And it was actually important because Koji meant firstborn son. Only, as Koji later learned in life, it's way more likely it actually means second-born son.
Yeah, so he joked that there might be a firstborn. What do you say? Koichi somewhere?
Yeah. Oh, and how he got his start doing, like many people start with who are English speakers in Japan, he was teaching English. And how many people who are teaching English, especially during that time, would drown their sorrows was in playing Final Fantasy XI.
I will say, Vic would be very proud of how much 11 was talked about this weekend.
It's true. It's true. Because Koji, he was playing the Japanese version of 11. And because this is before really the dawn of things, not even like Discord, but things like Ventrilo and TeamSpeak, that was when those were just really beginning to percolate themselves. And because at the time, 11 was really being played on PS2s where you couldn't even do that, everything was text-based. So therefore, Koji could really
not have to worry about being this probably for them gigantic gaijin white dude roaming around doing his thing. He could just type and talk in Japanese and just be a fellow adventurer with all his other adventurers playing the video game.
Yeah.
And you could really tell that he had some real joy in his heart, some real nostalgia for the times where he hated life, but he loved playing 11.
Yeah.
And that eventually he discovered that they were looking for a localization job to start getting 11 moved over into English. And he applied and didn't think he'd get it. But as he mentioned, he was fluent. He was native English, fluent in Japanese, been teaching for years, already extensively played 11. He was perfect. And he was absolutely perfect. And he got it. And also mentioned him and his boss and other people, how such a rush to get it ready. They didn't have much time. So the fact that he had played the game and kind of knew what everything was a real boon for them getting it running.
Yep.
And then, of course, they transitioned to, apparently he also worked on a bunch of not online games after he'd worked on all of 11. He apparently was one of the main localizers behind Dirge of Cerberus.
Yeah, that was surprising. That is one I've not played, but I've heard of it.
He also mentioned, what was that game? Code Age Commanders. It was a PS2 game that he got it fully done, and he was more or less doing it himself. Or he was so excited to be doing another game that was a single player game, so he went and played it and more or less localized it himself, or at least got a lot of stuff ready to go before the official project happened, and then discovered that it wasn't very well received in Japan, so they were not going to bring it over to America themselves. And so, oh well. He also mentioned My Life as a King, Mario Hoops 3-on-3, which was also wild because I think that was the first time he did some lyrics, because it was with,
It was the first time he worked with Soken, yeah.
Yeah. He thought he was going to localize The Last Remnant, but he was chosen not to. And instead they put him back on 11. And he worked on that until, and then I think this is around the same time they had some clips from other people in Square Enix. They had one of the main guys behind 11 talk about stories, how in 11 they used the flavor of the text to indicate whether something was high quality or not. And apparently Koji went really ham on the kind of terminology he would use and how he would frame things to indicate, this is high quality food. So that was neat. So then he brought up localization and sort of his thoughts on localization and his philosophy on localization, which is kind of Square Enix's philosophy of localization, because that's how he came up in Square Enix, where localization, it really is localization, not just translation, where they want it to read as natural as it would be natively than just a pure translation. Like, he doesn't want it to, when you read something, he wants it to sound like someone wrote it, no matter which version you looked at, right? And so he also then brought up how, it was like very well respected member of the video game development community had said, the quote is, when it comes to English, the flavor tends to get lost in many ways. Things inevitably end up sounding simplistic. And Koji didn't actually name names, so I will not either.
But yeah, if you've heard the story, you know exactly who it is.
You know exactly who it is. And I don't want to say Koji took umbrage with that, but he then really got into how a complex thing localization really is. Things like, English is a high context language and Japanese is a low context language, or it could be reversed. Regardless, when you read a line in Japanese, it's saying like very specific things, whereas in English, you need a lot of other words around it to make it sound right. So if you do a strict one-for-one translation, it's going to sound really weird. But that's why localization is so important, so you know the context of things so you can properly localize it.
Like he used the example, in English we have the word for I, we just have I. But in Japanese there was at least 5 or 6, because I know of like Boku and Ore from Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't ask. And so I knew that there were different ways to say I, and I knew that there was especially with like Ore and Boku, like one was more boyish, more childish, and then the other is like more mature. And so I know there's others like Watashi and other ways to say it. So yeah, so that's what he was explaining, that while they have a specific version of I they could use, we only have one, and that's where the rest of the words around it matter.
Yeah. He also had a really good 3-2-1 contact joke, which if you're my age or older, you'll totally get. I don't know anyone in that room who actually got it.
Yeah, I can't say I did.
But I got it. But yeah, that went for a while. Like he was, really going into it, and it felt very similar to when Naoki Yoshida really gets into a topic and he really wants to talk about all the different chunks of that topic. That it felt like they were real kindred spirits there. And Foxclon was there too. I think was it his emotional support Foxclon?
He was the emotional support Foxclon, yeah.
Yeah. And he would chime in here and there, and he was a very capable co-panelist and bringing in the flavor whenever it was needed. I think it was around this time they also had bits of, they mentioned Soken was recorded clearly from like a sound recording like thing where he was like, yeah, I know how you're not supposed to depend on any one person, but
I totally depend on Koji. Yeah.
Oh, and then Koji's like, yeah, he can't quit me.
I do like that after every single message, because all the messages were very complimentary and very, very nice. And Koji was like, how much you pay them? He's like, or not Koji, but Foxclon's like, how much you pay them? He's like, I didn't ask them to do this. I promise. I didn't ask them to say these things.
Oh, and then they also had, the director, I believe, of Final Fantasy XVI, because they did talk about 16, how in 16, it was a really weird case where while the script writer, the story creator, who was still Japanese, but he would tell all these things to Koji and the team, and they would actually write all the game in English first, and then go back and translate it into Japanese. Like they were reverse localizing it because they wanted everything to be natively English first, because they really wanted this to feel the same as a Western produced game. Now, I don't know if they needed to really do that. I think they would have been fine normally, but that's what they did. And it was kind of neat hearing how, oh gosh, do you remember what the director was saying? Like he was giving Koji like very, very good compliments, and then would talk about how sometimes Koji would get really stuck on something and not budge.
Yeah, like that he's a perfectionist. I don't know if he even specifically said what it was he was so focused on, but like it wasn't even like that important in the long run. But Koji was like, no, he wanted to figure it out.
Because Koji afterwards was like, yeah, that is my problem. That is probably when I want to get something right. I really want to get it done right. And it was such a good one. And then he ends it on, what things you want to do.
Well, no, so after that, around that time is when they started talking about,
oh yes,
the 16 lore book logos, because the Thursday night before Otakon, they had there was a book signing at a local Barnes & Noble, which we had tried very hard to get there for, but getting to Otakon and getting away from Otakon was very stressful. But the middle part was great. So they had a book signing for the lore book, and if anyone who's ever bought the Origin encyclopedias, that's what we thought. We thought it was a lore book, but this is actually a more companion book to the story of 16, and we're definitely, we plan to get it anyway, but this is definitely a need for us now. And he brought out the publisher, the main guy from the Penguin Random House that he worked with to publish his book, and his name was Gary, and Gary was great. I know he and Basil absolutely found kindred spirits in one another because of graphic design talk. And it was fun getting to see. So Koji had some slides where they talked about how they wrote the book because he wanted it to be very not structured in a way. It was like, it's the historian from 16 like gathering all this information together and just putting it in a thing, And so, they in the Japan side, they really wanted it to be very structured, and they called it like a bento layout because it was all very squared, very structured. And Koji and Gary were like, they were trying to explain that, nah, can we not? But the biggest issue was, again, with localization, the words in English were like, what did they say, like 3 times longer? Or it was way more English words than Japanese. And so if they printed it the way that they were trying to lay it out, it was good. The print was going to be super tiny. He joked, if you've bought the Eorzea encyclopedias, you know how tiny that can be. And we're like, yeah. And so he said in the end, he asked, can we, make it like 80 something more pages to the English version, more than the Japanese version? And they did. And they brought out a version of the book in Japanese, and they brought out a version in English, and the English one is so much thicker. It was surprising how much thicker. But that was really interesting to me because I just didn't think about how it was done and how it was put together. And he also went into how there are letters in the book that are written by the characters from 16, and he actually went to the English voice actors and had them write it in their characters' voices, essentially. Like they wrote those letters channeling their characters, which I thought was really neat.
Oh yeah, because the whole thing is like, instead of just being like a lore book like we would normally think of an encyclopedia Eorzea, it is lore, but it's all written by the old guy who runs the library. A lot of it is a collection of letters and other things. It really reminded me how they handle a lot of stuff in lore and Ivalice, but also how they handle lore in like 16 itself. Like he really thought through and thought of, well, if I'm going to do something like 16, but as a lore book, how would I do it? And how would it be different than what the work we did on 14 was? And they did. And then Gary, because actually Gary was there, and he was like, yeah, man, we could talk this entire 90 minutes just on this book, and how things like, for example, Koji really, really wanted it to be unstructured, where like every page would have like a different sized header, which, yeah, that's what I went to Gary and went, oh my God, had I known this before, oh, that would have driven me insane. Oh my God. He's like, you don't have no idea. It was, but no, Logo sounds way cooler of a book. And I say this as we own all 3 volumes of Encyclopedia Eorzea, and I'm looking forward to whenever they make a 4th one. But hearing what they really did with Logos, I'm like, well, 1, I really want to buy it now. 2, we really need to finish that DLC.
Yeah. We've the only part we haven't finished is the Leviathan DLC.
Which is the bigger one, which is funny considering what server we're on. Anyway.
Right?
But then he did finish it by going, okay, so you want to be a localizer. What should you do?
First, don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's whenever someone asks that question, that's usually the response the person doing a thing will tell you. It's kind of like when everyone would go, hey, how do you start an anime con? You don't.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's plenty of them. You just go to one. You can join staff. It's great, but we don't need any more. I mean, and that's somewhat true. But localization is, even now, especially, is a different story because a lot of these jobs are now being taken over, unfortunately, by like, well, Gen AI bullshit. And man, I really hope that Foxclon hears and reports back on just the deafening boos Koji got for mentioning how a lot of those jobs are currently being taken over by Gen AI. Because he was mentioning it because this is a bad thing. Like, I want to make sure that context is clear. Like, he was like, it sucks that this is happening. And again, I really hope those boos are taken to heart and are taken back so they really understand that no, the 14 community, by and large, we do not like Gen AI. He was like, but knowing that is rough, that is hard. What are the things that you do? And it was things like, which are just good general things to know, and general things like gain experience in life, know your weaknesses, arm yourself with the right skills. And it really was, in a lot of ways, just, get a really good education, learn about the world, do your best to be a full human in your own right. And like one of the final things he said was read, write. Like, so much, as I'm sure you just heard in the interview, where so much of it is reading books. And as an English major, yeah, it's absolutely true. I remember so much growing up. People went, when I did good essays and things, and I was, getting A's in all my English classes, like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I read a lot. Reading's fun. I really like reading. And it's so true, because reading and writing is, it's practice makes perfect, right? Like it's like any other skill. You have to keep it going. You got to keep it honed. And he finished it with saying things like, be what AI cannot. He's like, AI is fast, but it can't do context. It doesn't have the human element that is so required in really good localization. Like this is a thing. It's art. And that's my wording, not his, but he did say essentially that it's not math. This is something that a human has to be able to do. This is something only a human can do. And the human element is so important to all things. But in particular, with the folks at the panel, it's very important, if not entirely necessary and incredibly just impossible otherwise. It needs to be human. So that was, I think, and then again, read, write. That's a secret to, well, just writing in general, but also for localization.
Yep. That, like I said, that is one of the things that I applaud anyone that can do all that, because I only speak one language, well, 1.5, and I mean, I read and everything, but like, there's no way I could do that, because especially when he was talking about, like, you have to, you can translate. Like, translating and localizing are two very different things. And I think that is something that really needs to be understood if you want to get into that. Like, translating and localizing are two very different things.
Yeah, and they definitely focus more on the localization thing is very, very important. So also on Saturday was the Final Fantasy XIV community panel. I think they called it Duty Finder.
Yeah.
Otakon 2026, Final Fantasy XIV community panel. And it was a much more of a casual thing where Otakon had prepped the slides ahead of time, and Koji and Foxclon did not know what they were really getting into, because the majority of it was Otakon's attempt at, this is not the first time Otakon's done this, but they're taking the whole concept of hot ones, only this was cold ones. So they had different flavors of shaved ice that they wanted to give them while they answered questions. And it was particularly great for Anna and myself, because one of the first questions was, how did y'all two first meet? And Koji mentioned that he didn't realize it until they were doing an interview that morning, that he didn't quite realize that Foxclon was his senpai. And then Anna and I were very, very giddy, because that was, as you heard, our interview.
Yeah, the fact that was us was hilarious. Like, because when we, as you heard, Koji didn't realize that Foxclon had started 2 years before him, because he had mentioned during his lore panel that he had started, like, his first day was the day that Square became Square Enix. And so we had heard that the night before, and so when Foxclon mentioned that he had started 2 years previous, like, it was just the reaction was great. Like, and so getting that little bit of a mention during the panel just was really exciting.
Not even like, say, oh, we talked to these two people. No, it was just like, oh, we did an interview. And it was like, we're like, but we knew it. Good. It was, and just as they were answering some questions, just, like, what was your, what was your most impactful expansion? They both said Heaven's Ward, and just, it's a very, very, not particularly hard hitting, but it was neat, them interacting, but also them trying all the various flavors that Otakon had prepared.
Oh yeah, my favorite reaction was Foxclon's reaction to root beer, because apparently they do not have root beer in Japan, and that taste, that like anise taste, is very medicinal, and so that's like Koji tasted it and knew exactly what it was, and Foxclon's face was just like, "What have you done?" And that was the first fun reaction. Koji's reaction to Baja Blast was great. He was like, it tastes like toilet cleaner. And then they were told it was Baja Blast. He was like, oh, sorry, Mountain Dew. We love you. Because, they worked with them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the very last flavor, they guessed actually the round before the last flavor.
Which was like a California barbecue sauce.
Yeah, it was like a barbecue sauce. So I don't know which one. I don't even know what.
Sorry, Carolina barbecue sauce of some sort.
Yeah, Carolina barbecue. But the last flavor, if you've ever been to Otakon or know that Otakon originated in Maryland, and their mascot is a crab, they used Old Bay seasoning, and Koji, he guessed it on the barbecue sauce, and then when they brought out the last one, he was like, "This one's Old Bay." I was like, "Yeah." So that was a lot of fun.
I kept going, "Why are these brown? Why are these brown?
Yeah, why are they brown?
I should not be brown."
So after the cold ones, the little interviewer thing, it was fun. And so then after that, we kind of did a community game / we saw it that for some reason they were having issues with the presentation beforehand, so we kind of got to see a little bit of what the slides were going to be before we even saw them. And there was a slide that I noticed, and I looked at Basil and went, "Is this a tier list?" It looked like one, but when you got in there, it was a chart kind of thing to make a restaurant, essentially. Like, it had like various restaurant jobs, like head chef, hostess, owner, busser, customer, and all that. And so they're like, all right, well, we're going to click on these little boxes down here, and a character is going to pop up, and y'all are going to decide where it goes, or what job they belong to. It was funny because I felt like pretty much the entirety of the room plus Foxclon and Koji were all in agreement, usually.
Yeah, almost every time.
I know I have a picture of it. It's not the greatest picture. We could include it, but like, we had things like so Emmett Selk popped up, and everybody's like, "Oh, owner," and then a few people later, Tataru popped up, and everyone's like, "Oh no, they're co-owners."
Yeah.
And then we had like Teleji. They were like
Busser.
Yeah, we put him on Busser because that's the last way he could even try to poison somebody. And, we had like Minfilia was the cashier. It was, we had, Thancred and Gaius on grill because of course the dads had to be the grill masters. And, the Namazu and Alpha were the fry cooks. Because then Koji made the joke, chicken or fish. We're like, oh God. But yeah, that was thoroughly entertaining.
They did a mini Cactpot, like gold saucery themed lottery number tickets.
Oh yeah, raffle ticket.
Yeah, for a raffling. That they had a bunch of little prizes. That was where they were trying to randomize the numbers that came up, and they were just having real issues on matching numbers.
Oh yeah,
because they actually had.
Yeah, because Koji was pulling numbers out of a cup, and like it was. I mean, I felt like it was a fair way to do it. I was annoyed because they never called any of them in our hundreds. But
that's how RNG goes.
But one thing that was entertaining was someone did shout out Butt Slider, which if you watched the Berlin FanFest
or the NA FanFest,
the NA FanFest, Koji brought up Butt Sliders, and Yoshi was very much no, stop it. And then in Berlin, he said, shh, it's a secret. So at one point, so Koji went, yes, butt sliders. It is not if, but when. So that was the.
I don't know how official that is, actually, but he said it. He sure did say it.
He did.
But those were the 2 panels we were able to make it to at Otakon that had them there, and they were both really good. They were really fun.
There was a third they did there was a guest who was well known for making like the fake food like you can see in Japan that is amazing, like amazingly accurate. And I believe they made some 14 themed food. And I'm sad we didn't get to go to it, but like unfortunately, this is a different type of convention that we work for, where usually all the work we do is before the con, and then we just go to the con and like either do panels or we're there. But Otakon is very different in that no matter what work you do before the con, you still have to work. So we were working shifts between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. So we were already kind of exhausted by the time we got to the convention. So we ended up having to, really pick and choose what we wanted to do. And of course, we really wanted to go to at least the 2 big 14 panels. And as much as I wanted to go to the food one, our bodies we're old. We just couldn't really make it work the entire time.
We did see the examples afterwards because they had them displayed.
Oh, yeah.
And they all looked really cute because they had like little, like, what was it, Moogle themed like drinks with like little Moogle palm, faces on top of it.
Yeah.
It was very, very cute. And I was like, man, I wish I could have gone to that panel. But
yeah,
the ones we did go to were great. It was amazing. Oh my gosh, we had just the most, thank you again, Otakon and Square Enix for the interview. It was really, really amazing to finally meet Koji after 10 years of trying. And Foxclon was amazing as always.
So now that has to tide us over until Gateway and Japan FanFest.
Oh yeah. And we'll be covering both of those in some form or fashion. Don't worry, here on the Carbuncle Chronicle, because this has been a production of the Carbuncle Chronicle, your podcast for everything awesome in Final Fantasy XIV, edited by me, Basil. How you doing? Hope we all are doing well. Man, aside, I've been doing these mentionings of, it's me, I'm editing, how you doing? Only very recently have I started watching like Mondays with Mr. Happy's on occasion, and I didn't realize that was the same vocal thing he did during his Mondays with Mr. Happy.
Oh, really? I haven't watched them in a while, so I didn't.
If someone says hi Haps or hi Happy, he'll respond, hi, how you doing? Like in his video, and I'm like, oh gosh, I did not know we were doing the same bit. Okay. Anyways.
Before we actually finish up, 2 announcements that we can actually say because, we're going to get this out in the next day or 2. Yokai Watch is back. If you need to level something, go do it. There's a lot of rewards now because, geez, I thought there were a lot when I did it. And they've now added housing. So that's back. And as of today, right now, my Switch is currently downloading it. Final Fantasy XIV can be played on Switch too. Yay! And it's on sale right now. If you would like to purchase it, it'll probably go on sale again. It usually does. But yeah, and but I know right now you get 30 days free because of the trial period, and then you get 30 days free after you buy it. So if you're interested in that, you can get that. And then hopefully I will talk this into existence. We will be hearing about Moonfire Faire soon because that should be coming up in the next couple weeks.
Well, you did accidentally talk Yokai Watch back into existence, so...
I know, I'm going to try to be 2 for 2.
The theme song was done. Well, the AwesomeCast theme song was done by Inabita. You can find his stuff at djinabita.com, but it was arranged by Anna for the Carbuncle Chronicle theme. You can find us online at, of course, carbunclechronicle.com or awesomecast.com/Carbuncle Chronicle, and check out the AwesomeCast website. It's got our Discord, our Patreon. We've got our merch store on TeePublic. All the ways that you can support, help us, and talk to us are there. You can also find us on social media, either at carbunclechronicle.com on like Blue Sky, or a lot of places it's CarbyCast. Please do leave us great reviews, like 5-star reviews, all the stars, on things like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave us a comment, because they count more when you leave a comment. You don't have to say anything important or an actual review us. If you want to say, hey, I went to Otakon, cool badge, or where was my job? It was there. I promise it was there. It was probably Red Mage, and it was an exhibitor, or it was
Reaper, and it was an industry or machinist.
But they were all there.
Or scholar.
Yeah, that was press. Anyways, let us know with your 5-star review, whatever you want to talk about. You can talk about whatever last dungeon you did. That sounds fun.
You could also do that in the comments of the YouTube channel.
That's true, which we have both for the Awesomecast and Carbuncle Chronicle. You can also find myself on Blue Sky at It's Basil Time. Anna's also on Blue Sky at Angel Darkfire. The middle A is silent. But yeah, thank y'all ever so much for listening, for getting to the end, because I have a feeling us talking about Koji and Foxclon was longer than we spent talking to Koji and Foxclon. But nevertheless, never ever forget, you tank the Bone Dragon up north. All right. Yeah, this is going to be a full ass episode by the time I'm done.